All right.
Okay, so let me share my screen. Um, all right, where are we? Yeah, from here, right? Yep. And no, yep. All right. And so we are at what class are we now? Today is for Pandas, right? So data analysis, where is it? What's in? All right. No, keep going. Yep. Here we are. Okay. All right. Um, can my screen be seen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. So today, for this programming that we've embarked on, this a 1 month boot camp for Python programming. I'm happy to announce that today we enter where we do some interesting things with data. Right? We've been looking at how we work with functions, and we'll look at how we are going to manipulate conditional statements, loops, and stuff like that. But now we are going to go into, for those working with a lot of data, you might have to pay attention to this. But before we go into this, I would like to know how many of us were able to work on the assignment? Just just put your hand up in the chat, or you can just say yes, I did, or I did not. I just want to know the number. How many of us were able to do it? Nobody. Nobody worked on the assignment. Someone hand is up. Yeah, let's hear it. Someone.
Yes, I tried.
Okay,
I
what
think
was
it's not me. Most of us did.
Oh, okay. And it was okay. There was no challenge, right?
Yeah, so it was okay. Where I had challenges, I seek assistance from AI.
Very good, very good. Like I said, you need to know where to find everything. You don't have to know everything, but at least you need to understand the basics so that you can be able to, edit the code to suit your taste. All right. So then in that case, we'll jump into this. So basically, um, one of the main, facets of programming is you probably have to deal with a lot of data, huge data sets, play around with them and all that. So you need to first of all know how to, create. You need to know how to create the data. Okay, and by creating the data, there are two ways of doing it. I remember I asked all of us to install Pandas. So if you have Pandas installed, we'll be working on the practical aspect soon. So basically, you first of all need to know how to create the data. And you've done a couple of things when it comes to data types in creating data. However, when you want to create a data that has rows and columns, that has column titles and indices and all that, we most often want to work with um, data frames. Okay, and data frames are the normal data that we see usually in our Excel sheets where we have we have it in the form of a table. There are headings and there are columns. In columns having rows having their indices. And in Pandas, there are two ways of doing that. You can either create a data frame or you can create a series. So basically, the difference between a data frame and a series is that a data frame has several columns and a series has just one column. However, it has a column title and then also the rows have in the indices. So a data frame is a table. It contains an array of individual elements, each of which has a certain value. Each entry corresponds to a row or a record and a column. So basically, this is the command you use to create a data frame in Pandas. So we would look at it. The PD here is basically the alias for Pandas, like we did when we did for NumPy. We said the alias of NumPy is what NP. So the alias of Pandas is PD. So this will be using most often in our work. And a series, by contrast, is a sequence of data values. If a data frame is a table, a series is a list, basically. And if, and in fact, you can create one with nothing more than a list as well. So this is how you create a list. So we'll look at how to create a series with pandas. Now we need to know how to read and write data files with pandas. We looked at how you can do that with NumPy previously when we're looking at the plotting and all that. So now we are looking at how we can do it as well with pandas. Data can be stored in any of a number of different forms and formats. By far, the most basic of these is the humble CSV file. And I remember we talked about it last Thursday. Why we usually use CSV? Because CSV is quite common and it's one of the data types that's accepted by most programs. But then there might be difference. So depending on what work you are working with, what you know type of data you require would depend on how you save or initialize these data sets. So let's keep that in mind. All right. So when you open a CSV file, you get something that looks like this. Okay, I would show you that. Sorry, I would show you that in the chat. And this is how you read your file. So we have PD, read CSV, and then the file path where the file is located. So if the file is located within the place where you are working, you don't need to, add the file path to it. So we'll look at how to do all of that, and then save a data frame. You just pick the data frame or what data you have now, and then you just add the method to CSV to it, and then it would save directly for you. So I will talk about today in our practical session. I will talk about methods and objects and stuff like that, so that you understand some of these things. I remember I mentioned it earlier, but I didn't go into details because I didn't want to make it complicated. Now, similar to lists, tuples and NumPy arrays and all that, we can index as well. We can select certain columns, and also we can certain columns and rows, and we can actually assign columns and values to rows and stuff like that, just like we did it in the other aspect of it. So in Python, we can access the property of an object. So object, don't worry if you hear object, we'll discuss it later, by accessing it as an attribute. Okay, so an example is a book object might have a title property, which we can access by calling book.title. So if you don't get it, don't worry. When we do the practical session, you understand. Columns in a pandas data frame work in a much similar way. If we have a Python dictionary, we can access its values using the index operator. We can do the same for columns in data frame as well. Pandas indexing works in one of two paradigms. The first is index-based selection. So the way we do the indexing in Pandas, there are two ways we go about it. The index-based selection, that is when you select based on the index. And for that, you use the command data.iloc. So this data is basically the data frame you are working with. And then, the iloc is telling us pick the location based on the index. Okay. And there is also the second paradigm for attribute selection. And this one, we use the label. So the label-based selection, and in this paradigm, the data index value, not its position. So for example, if you want to pick a column, you don't use the index of the column, you use the name of the column. Okay, and if you want to do similar, that is the difference between the two. And for that, instead of using iLoc, you use loc, just LOC, the location. Label-based selection derives its power from the labels in the index. So there are some cases that you can convert your indices to labels. So you can choose, instead of using the 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3 to the end of them, you can probably convert a column to the index, and then you can use that for some of these um, you know selection. And index critically, the index we use is not immutable. We can manipulate the index in any way we see fit. And I remember when we were talking about data types, I talked about immutable data, immutable data. So the ones that you cannot edit and the ones that you can edit is the ones you cannot edit is mutable, and the ones you can edit is immutable, and the ones that you cannot edit are mutable. So in this case, it says not immutable, so it means that it's mutable, so you can make changes to them. The set index command method, okay, can be used to do the job. So this is, like I mentioned, you can convert a column to your indices, and you can use that in doing your slices. To do interesting things with data, however, we often need to ask the question based on conditions. So we are going to look at some of these conditions. Going the other way, assigning data to a data frame is easy. You can assign either a constant value or with iterable values. So basically, that is what we'll be doing today. So this is just a brief introduction that I give to you. So we'll look at it. Let me quickly bring our command prompt, and we start our Jupyter notebooks. Oh, this is taking a while. Yeah, good. Let's create a new file, new notebook, and we name it Pandas, maybe. I'm terrible at naming, so just have to forgive me. The name that comes to mind first is what I go with. So Pandas, that's all. All right. So the first thing we need to do is import Pandas as PD, right? All right. So we mentioned that we have two types of ways we generate the data types, and we can have the data frame and we can have series, right? So let's start with the first one, which is the data frame. We mentioned that to create a data frame, you initialize PD, dot. Pay attention to the spelling. It's very important. Like I mentioned, Python is case sensitive, so you can't make mistakes. All right. So this is a simple command for creating the data. So what we can do is you can either choose to initialize your data before, or you can create it within the the braces. But what I usually do is prefer to create my data first. So what I can do now is let's create, sorry, let's create a data. Let's call it say there's a question. Let me check. Oh, okay, increase the font. All right, sure. All right. I think it's better. AJ, is it better now? So how should I call this data? Let's just call it students. Okay, got it. Class 2B, right? Then we can create in this way, like a dictionary. And we say that you might have mentioned that it's similar to a dictionary for the data frame, and then the list is similar to the series, but you'll see the difference. Similar, not the same. Okay. All right. So let's do this. We say we go with let's have scores plus 2B scores. Yes, scores. All right. So we go with John. I always start with John. I don't know why. John had, and John is usually a backbencher, so he's not really doing well all the time. 56. We have Mary, who is smart, and always doing 92. And then we can have Jake, who is an average student and is doing, say, 65. So what we do now is we can convert this to a data frame, this dictionary. So we just copy this and put it here. So we just say that convert this data to a data frame, all right? And let's call that data scores data frame, okay? And we run this. So now we will look at the difference between the two, okay? You must pass an index. Oh, okay. Okay, give me a moment. Must pass an index to the array. Where is that? Pass an index to the array. No, you're not supposed to do that now. Why am I going wrong here? Let me try something else. Let me see what is going on. Oh, I remember now. Um, this has to be, let me see if this works. Oh, sorry. Yep, it works. All right. So now what we would see here is that if I call this, right, it is going to show me a dictionary, okay? And if I call this variable, see what I have. See the difference between the two. So this one now has chosen the first line to be the scores. Okay. But maybe that's not what we want. Okay. So usually what happens is within this place is the information that is going to form the rows. Okay. Within this is where you are going to have the rows. All right. So basically this is what we have. So we can have it such that maybe this is the mark for physics, chemistry. You can have John having several marks, Mary having several marks. Okay. So we can try that as well. And let's see how we propagate it over time. So we have, sorry, 34, 62, and 28. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Let's try it here. Same thing. And 89. And you see the difference in the results we are going to get. All right. So we run this same one. And let's see what happens. So you notice that now you're able to store, you're able to see the difference. You see, so this is beautifully done. Okay. So there is something that we notice here. We notice that maybe we don't want it this way. We just want to show here, maybe here should be the physics, chemistry, or we can choose how we want to go about it. So basically what we are doing here is we are creating our data set. Okay. So just follow with me. If you have any question, don't hesitate to put it in the chat. Okay. All right. So now we are building our data. Okay. Now, what we want to do is we want to change these ones from 0, 1, 2, 3 because we don't understand what 0, 1, 2, 3 is. You remember that I mentioned that you can change the indices of what do you call it, the the rows. So now let's see how we can do that. So basically we are building it. So now what we can do now is we can include another, let me pick this. We can include another column. Okay. So let me make it differently so that it won't be the same thing. Updated. Right. Oh, D. Updated. All right. Let's include one more column. Okay. And have that bear the final one. So we can have a final one, and then let's call that courses or course. Okay. And then we can put them here. If I'm going too fast, you can slow me down so I take my time. If there are any questions, don't hesitate to ask. So we have English and perhaps history. All right, great. So we run this, and what will be the command to convert this to a data frame? Who can share it? Who can share it in the chat with me? Okay, slow down. All right. So what would be the command to convert this to a data frame? Now what we have here is a dictionary. We want a data frame. You're not getting the concept. Okay. Let's go over again. Let me start from the top. Yes. So yes, but we need something else. You need to give it an argument. All right. So if you want to work with files, okay, in the form of, yes, Muriel, you're right. No, Muriel, look at this, the fonts. Sorry, the font size. I mean, the case. Sorry, the case of your data frame. I told you Python is case sensitive, so remember to write it this way, or it would give you an error. Yes, Apple, you are right. Yes, 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 exactly that. So basically, we don't want to have our data in this form, okay? Because working in this form doesn't make us see exactly what is going on, right? So we have a class, okay? And in the class, the students wrote exams, okay? And for the 4 examinations that they wrote, okay, they this is the first score, which is the score for physics, chemistry, English, and then history, okay? So we put it down. We write that John had these scores, Mary had these scores, and Jake had these scores, okay? However, when we look at it this way, we don't get to understand what exactly is going on. We want it to look more like visually appealing, like how you want to see it in an Excel sheet, okay, and all that. So what we do is now we have to convert it to a Pandas data frame, okay? And I said a data frame is like a table where we have rows and columns with column titles and rows having indices, okay? So that's basically what we did. I'm sure you already know this. This is not new to all of us. We know this, okay? We all know this. This is a simple dictionary, all right? So what we do is, in order to convert it, okay, to let me see if there's a, yes, good. So in order to convert this into a pandas data frame, like the way you remember we're able to convert lists into NumPy arrays by using NumPy.asArray, right? Convert it. It's the same thing that we are doing here. So we want to convert this dictionary to a pandas data frame, okay? Because a pandas data frame gives us a table instead of giving us in this form where it is a bit, confusing, okay? So here it is clearer to see what is going on. Now, what we do is we pass this dictionary to this command, and it converts whatever is in here into a data frame for us, okay? So now you see that it's the same thing that I put in here. I could choose, let me use the same name so that it would stop confusing us, but I'll add data frame to it. So it's the same class course, but this time around, this is a dictionary. Let me put it here so you see the difference. This is just a name for you to see the difference. So this is the dictionary form of it, and this is the data frame form of it. Okay, I just want you to see the difference. So we run this. Now, when we run this here, we still see the dictionary, right? Like it is, like we initialized it. However, when we run the data frame option of the same thing, okay, what happens now is we see it differently. We see rows and columns with table headings and all that, just like we want to see in our Excel sheets and all the data that we are working with. I hope to this point it is clear. For those that had challenges, if it is clear, just put a yes in the chat. I hope to this point it's clear. Awesome. Great, 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 great. So now what we want to do is we notice that this is not too clear. Okay. It's not too clear, but we want to make it such that it makes it a bit more clearer because now what is 0, what is 1, what is 2, what is 3? It's a bit confusing, okay? So what do? We add a column called courses, okay? This is what we have here. So this is what we are doing now. So we have not changed anything. It's the same thing that we had here, but now we notice that there's a difference. We don't understand what is going on here. So we want to make it a bit more clearer, okay? So what do? We introduce another column called courses. Okay. And what I was asking is, if I want to convert this to a data frame, what is the command? And I think Apple and Muriel gave me the results of what I was looking for. Okay. So this is a data frame. I just add df to it so that we can differentiate between the dictionary and the data frame, but it doesn't affect what is inside. Okay, so we have this. All right, so what I do now is, then I convert this by saying pd.data frame, okay, into bracket. Then I give this information, this dictionary to it as an input. So for example, I want to try this for you to see. If I make this a small d and this a small f, see what happens. It gives me an error, right? Pandas has no attributes this. So then it means that it is very case sensitive. So when you are doing this, remember to always write it this way. And then this is what you call the camel casing, where the start of each word is a capital. But we usually use snake casing in Python, which is what we do here, the underscores, right? So let's run this. Now we have this. So let's check out the two information that we have done so far. What the two data types we have created. This gives us this, right? And the same information that we converted to a data frame gives us this. Okay, but what do you want to do? We don't want to look this way, okay? We want to change this, okay? Want to change this so that this one now becomes the index, okay? This one now becomes what? The index. So we don't have 0, 1, here. So this is just an example so that you get to appreciate some of these things, okay? So now what we do is, in that case, okay, we have to change the index. So what we say now is, for this data frame we've created, right, we want to change the index. I would have to explain what methods and what objects are to you in a bit. Okay? So we say set index, okay, then we pass the column which we want to set the index to it, okay? All right, so we can do this, and we give it course, right? Good. We run this, and you see what happens here. Now it has replaced this indices with the columns so that we can see. So now we can see that we have John, Mary, and Jake. These are their scores, and these courses are pertaining to these courses that they took. So for physics, John had 56, Mary had da. So this is a simple way of creating a data set in Python, okay, using pandas. I hope it is clear to this point. Is it clear to this point? Are there any questions? Good. So this is a simple way of creating a data set. So this was the first thing I wanted us to look at, how to create a pandas data frame, okay? All right. So like I said earlier on, you can either have one in this form where it's a table, or one where it is a series, okay? So for a series, you would need to have a list, okay? So I usually call it first list. Forgive me for my lack of innovation when it comes to variable names. So first list, we just create a list. Let me just copy one of these so I don't have to write the whole thing again, right? This is just a list, all right? So what we do is, now we run this list, we save it. First list, okay, save it. Then now we convert it to a series. Okay. So we say, let's call it first list series. So I would show you something. See what happens when we say convert it to a data frame. Probably going to churn out something interesting for us. Okay, so we have this. We run this. You see what happens here. But then if we run it as a series, let's see what we get. So who can tell me what the difference is between the two? What we just did. What is the difference between the two? Yeah, Bulampo, your hand is up.
Yeah, I think that what I saw is that if you see that the column also has indices at the row.
Yes. Look at this carefully, okay? Then let me go back and do this, okay? What is happening here? I want you to see the difference. Oh, sorry. We have this. Okay, let me call this one DF, and then let me have the series as well. So all right. So I ran this and I ran this. So the results for this is this, okay? And the results for this is that. So look at the two and tell me what the differences that you see. It would inform how you visualize these things when you are working with them. What is the difference between the two? Okay, the data frame has rows and columns, and the series are numbered with their indices. Yes. So basically, what is happening here is you notice that this one presents it in the form of a table, okay? But this one presents it in the form of a series. So it's just a series of numbers. However, what you can do is with this, you can actually name it, okay? So you can name the series that you are working with. So what you do is if you want to name the series, you copy this, and we come here, and then you put name. So the name of the series, you can call it score. It scores. Okay. So when we run this, you notice that if we check it here, we see that the name is scores. Okay, let's try the same thing for you see, we see scores. Let's try the same thing for data frame. Let's see if we can do the same thing here. You will notice that we are still going to have very interesting results. This is just to show you some of the differences that we have with these two. Okay. You cannot pass a name to this because of the columns, right? The columns bear the definition of the information underneath, the values underneath. So you can't pass it a name. Okay. So the way you play around with data frames and the way you play around with series are not going to be the same thing. Okay. So the series will be in the form of a list that have indices that you can call upon, right? So these are some of the differences based on the kind of data type you want to be working with. Okay, so just keep these in mind. And like I mentioned, okay, that for example, if you go to a certain, okay, let's say you go to a certain shop or maybe an Apple store, okay, and you buy an iPhone from the Apple store. So what happens is that now you are an iPhone user and you have warranty at the store. Okay, so if the warranty covers phone screen replacement, you know, charger replacement in case of damage, all these things. These are perks that will be assigned to you by virtue of the fact that you are an Apple user who bought a phone from an Apple store and have warranty. Okay, so this is what you have just by the fact that you chose to buy the phone from a certain shop. Okay, this is an example that I'm giving you. So what happens is you notice that because you have the phone, you have access to certain things. It is the same way um, um, for programming when we create classes. Okay, and within classes, you can have objects within those classes, and those objects are instances that have been created within those classes. So let me explain that to you. You will notice that when we were working with NumPy, okay, there were certain things we could do with NumPy, but we couldn't do with lists. Okay, so those things that we could do with NumPy are the methods. Okay, then the variable that we created within NumPy is the object. Okay, so understand this carefully. So now what we are having here is, if we have created this, okay, this now becomes an object of the Pandas series, okay? And because you created this object within the series instance, right? You created this instance there, right? What is happening is this that you see here would have access to certain things that are given to series, okay? So anytime we call this thing, this function, sorry, this variable here, we can find the mean, we can find the median, with all these things that we could do to it. But this is the same thing. The same thing could not be done for the information we used to create it, which is this list. Okay. So an example would be, we use first list, okay, to create this data frame, okay, and this series. Now let's look at something, okay. So let me call first list here. Okay, first list. If I run first list dot say mean or anything, and I run this, I'm going to have, it is telling me that the list object, okay, this object that I've created, which is a list, okay, has no attributes, mean. The attributes, some call it method, some call it attributes, it's, don't worry, it's you would understand going forward when you practice with it. But the same information that I used to create this data frame, right? Now let me call this data frame. And let me run dot mean. What happens? It gives me the mean. Okay. So why do you think I'm able to have the mean here and not have it here? Who can help me with this in the chat based on the understanding so far? I want to hear it. Who can help me based on the understanding we have? Okay, if you can say, don't worry if you think what you have in your head is wrong. Just let it out. Let me hear you. Raise your hand if you have something, based on what I've said so far, how you understand this. I would want to hear from you guys. I'll start calling. Popolampo, let me hear from you. Popolampo, are you there? Yes. Yes. What do you understand by this that I just said?
Oh, okay, let me see. So what I'm understanding is that the
Mm-hmm.
the first list it's not it has not become converted to a NumPy array, so it's not having the attribute of mean.
Very
And
good.
the other one, the additional data frame
Yes.
has that it has that inbuilt attribute of
Good.
mean in it.
Very good. You see, you were laughing. You see, you knew the answer, but you didn't have confidence in yourself. You are right. So you talk about NumPy, but in this case, we were not working with NumPy. We're working with Pandas. Okay. So by virtue of the fact that we created this list within where is it? Within a Pandas data frame, all the pecs that are available to this data frame, okay, can be used by this because it is an instance, okay, within this. So now, once you have created this, this becomes an object of a Pandas data frame. That is why you notice that here it says list has da, 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 da. But in this case, you will notice that in some cases you will see object, this object has da, 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 da. The moment you see an object, right, it means that you created it within a certain class. Okay, like it's an instance of that class. It naturally becomes an object. Am I clear? I feel like maybe the terms are a bit getting confusing. Am I clear? Like, is there any question? Okay, the data frame has rows and columns and series. All right, any questions so far? Anything you don't understand before we go on? Because we'll be using the methods a lot or the attributes a lot. Okay, so I want you to understand it very well when we talk about objects, because Python, you usually hear Python is an object-oriented programming. They say object-oriented programming or object-oriented programming in Python. This is basically how it is. But creating the classes is another topic that we may work on some other time, but not for this purposes of this course. All right, Popolampo, hand is up.
Yeah, I wanted you to explain the object, the difference is that you were given.
Okay, okay. So let's go over this again. Like I said, let me try to use another. Okay, so you are a student of a certain university, right? Okay, so basically, because you are enrolled in that school, right? Now, I'm going to use the terms here. You are an object, okay? Object doesn't mean that I am demeaning you or anything, but I'm trying to make you understand based on the terms we have here. So now you are an object because you are a student now. Your current status is a student within that university. So what happens? You have access to the university's cafeteria. You don't have to pay, you don't have to go through scrutiny to go there because you have your student card to prove that. You have access to the library. All you have to do is show your student card to go there. So imagine someone else who is going to a different university, tries to access this, facilities within the university. That student may not be able to have access. The reason being that that student is not an object within that university. That is how best I can put it for you to get it. So an object is basically something that was created within a certain, class or a certain environment. By virtue of that, you have certain pets. So let's pick hospital, okay? Let's pick the hospital, okay? This is what happens, okay? Say if you are a nurse, okay? They create a profile for you as a nurse, okay? What happens? Now, by virtue of the fact that you're a nurse, okay? Now, let's say your name is Jane. Jane is now an object, okay, of the class nurse, okay? What happens is that because Jane is that object and is classified within nurses, she has access to, she cannot diagnose, but then she can be an assistant to, during treatments or surgery. She can be an assistant by administering drugs, but she cannot prescribe drugs. She cannot diagnose. Now, in the same hospital, there would be an object under the class, doctors or physicians, okay? Now, the physician also has certain roles that is assigned to it. So by the virtue of the fact that Dr. Francis is an object under the physician class, he can do diagnosis. He can, give prescriptions and all that stuff. So basically, that is what I'm trying to draw your mind to. So by virtue of the fact that you created an instance within a certain class, okay, what happens is that now that instance has access to all the text that is within that class. Okay, so a module is basically, several classes, or, it could be one class, it could be several of them in between. And these classes create these objects, okay? So now, what I'm saying is, with this, we can say that this variable that was created, okay, because we assigned a certain list to this series, any pegs that are available to this series, this one have it. This variable does not need to inform anybody to have that pegs. By just the virtue that was created there, it has all that information. That's the same way for the data frame. So this mean is a method, okay, or it's a method or a function. There are several, but for programming, object-oriented programming, sometimes they just use the word method often. So this is like a method, okay, of this object. All right. So you notice that the information within this series, okay, 532, is the same information that we have here. The same thing. But because it's not an object of that class, it's not, you can't do certain things with it. So basically, that's what you need to understand. So if you create a variable with numpy, that variable becomes an object of numpy. If you create a variable with Pandas series, this becomes an object of a Pandas series. If you create a variable with Pandas data frame, this becomes an object of Pandas data frame. And the data frame has several attributes. So what we can do is, I want to show you some of the methods that are available. So let's go to help, and then let's find out what are some of the specs that are available to us for the data frame. So we run this, okay? So now you see what it says. This is how you form it. This is the information you need, okay? You see it's a class, like I mentioned, right? So here you have to put your data. That's one of the commands. So for example, in our case here, where we did before, you can either choose to only put it there, or you can assign it like we did before. So for example, like here, we could say this data, okay, is equal to this, like we did before, where I showed you how you can assign it to it. So here, what they have done is, in order not to make it empty, you will notice that they've also assigned none, 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 none to all these ones, like we did last time. Okay. With that, you can have it run without any errors. But if you don't assign any, initial variables to it, what is going to happen is, when you are running, it's always going to ask you for those variables. So in order to avoid these errors, you sometimes assign none to it. Okay. So data is none. You have an index, so you can choose the axis of that index. Okay. It could be the column axis or the row axis. So you can see them here. So axis is none, none. You have the column axis. Okay. Index and all that. So you see all these things are the input parameters for a data frame. Now, let's look at some of the text that are available to us in the data frame. So I want to see some of the text that are available to us. So you have, as now, there are so many of them allowed to copy, so many of them. If you go in the methods, okay, these are the methods that I was talking about. So with the methods, you can see the things that you can play around with. You have all of them here. So this is telling you what this one does. It's a Boolean. It returns that, so many of them. So if you go in here, you see so many methods. that are available to use. Feel so many of them, so many of them. You go through them and you can learn more about the data type that you are working with. Okay. All right. So whilst we are working on this, you will see we are going to be using some of these ones as well. So don't worry if you don't get it now. Going forward, you get it once we start using them. So just know that this here, this is a method of this object, and this is an object that was created under the class data frame. Okay, PD.data frame. So it has certain attributes to it that it can use. Okay, so now, for example, if you want um, the median, you can do that as well. Okay, median, you can do it, and you will have it. You have the results. Okay. Similarly, you can even find a sum of it. Okay, it gives you the sum. It will sum everything in here for you. Okay, so there are several things you can do by virtue of the fact that you created it within a certain area. So I think at this point that is clear. Is it clear now? Is the method object clear now? Awesome, awesome, awesome. So now the method is clear. All right. And now let's start doing more interesting things. Okay. So what we want to do now is, now we are creating the data set. What if we don't want, yeah, Eugene?
Please, there is this particular line. You made some indexing somewhere there. I
Okay,
couldn't follow that part. Could you go
okay,
to that
okay,
line?
yeah, right?
Or yeah. Okay, sure.
Okay, so what is
Setting.
happening is, you notice that I was saying that these are the scores for these courses, okay? But we don't want it to look like this. This one looks like an entry within the table. But we want to make sure that we can see that this, you see, the difference with this and the some other things is, you see, this one, you can now change this to become the index so that you would know that, oh, for the courses, John had this. The moment you pick this, you know John for physics had 56, Mary had 92. Same way, that way. This is clearer than this.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So that is why we did that, so that we can have the information clearer. You can even choose to do it the opposite way, such that this now becomes John and Jake can become the column, sorry, the rows, and then this becomes the columns. You can choose anyhow you want it based on how you want your data to look like. So this is just to set the column. Okay, so you can choose a column and set it as an index. That's all we did here.
Sure, thank you.
All right. So now we have this, right? Let's now save this data. What I want us to do is look at saving, and then we record the data. So this data was created by us, and now we want to save it and then call it back again, and play around with how you can do this when you're on your own. So like I mentioned, right, one of the methods that the object has is what? To CSV. So what does that is, you have to Excel, to CSV, to text. There are so many of them. So you can you can look for them based on what you want to do, the kind of data you want to save it to. You can actually save it to Excel as well. But then you have to, I think you have to install open XYL or something like that to be able to convert it. So you have to look through all of these things and then play around with them. So what we want to do now is we want to save this data set. Okay, this data set here. So we call it this. And like I said, because it's an object, right, you can easily save it. So you just do to CSV. That's all. So now we choose a name. What name should we call it? What name? Can anyone give me a name that we can call it? I'm terrible at giving names. Okay. Name. Who can help me with it? Anybody in the chat, just feel free. Give me any name, I'll use it. Okay. We have exam score. Okay. So we copied this. Then let's put it here. So you can just save it like this. See, don't forget to add the file extension. Okay. Now we run this and it's saved. So if you come here, we should see an Excel sheet with that name. Where is it? Exam.cs. Let me, maybe it's taking, it's here now. There should be an Excel sheet somewhere. Yeah, this is it. This is the sheet. The one we just saved. Exam score. This is what we just saved now. Okay. If you go into your, give me a moment. Let me just get to the screen and then open any of these files. Let me just open an empty one there. All right. So we go into Python there. And what do we see here? Exam score. And you can see that it was created on the 23rd of February at 1:03 p.m. 1:03 p.m. That's when we created it. You see? So we just created this file. All right. Now, what do we want to do next? We probably want to, let's say we didn't save it. We want to load it. This is a file that is within the folder. Okay. So what do? We can now save that. We can read that data. So let's call it data that we are going to use. Data is equal to, then now we say pd.read csv. All right. And what is the name? This is the name. Okay. Put it here. All right. First of all, let me do something here so you see. If I call data, right? If I call a variable called, if I run this cell, tell me the data is not defined. Now let me run this to load this data that we just saved. Okay, we saved it as exam score. When we load it, what do we get? It's loaded. Now let me run this. It gives me this. Notice what is happening. Okay. This is the data set we saved, not the one that has changed the column. We saved the original one, this. Okay, this is what we saved. So you see that we have it here. It's actually loaded with everything here, right? So you notice that now we've ended up having an unnamed column because this unnamed column is the index. However, this is not what we want, okay? So what do? I hope everything is clear now, the saving and then the loading, okay? Is it clear now? Let me just put, give me a moment. All right. So what we did here is we saved this file we saved the data here as a CSV file. And here we loaded data from a CSV file. Okay. So are there any questions at this point? If there are no questions, you can just type no in the chat so I know we are both on the same page. We're all on the same page. Because it's going to get a bit more complicated than this. So I really need you all to understand the basics. It's very important because you'll be using these ones a lot. Okay, good. All right, great. Yes. So, yeah, Samuel, your hand is up.
Yeah, so I just want to know the difference. See this one, we created the dictionary, then we saved it to CSV file. Then later on we loaded.
Yes.
Let's say that downloaded the data from maybe a different source. or maybe you want to download the data directly from the source using a Python code.
Yep.
Do we follow this same step, or sometimes it changes? Because at times, if you are loading it from your, local disk, sometimes you tend to get some errors.
Okay. That's a very good question. We will come to that. That was the next thing that we were going to do. Because in this case, right,
thank you.
the reason why we called it directly was because both our file, our notebook, Jupyter notebook, where is it? What do we call it today? We call it Pandas, okay? It's in the same folder as this. But there are some cases that you want to go and copy this from somewhere and come and run. We'll look at that, okay? So if it's an online repository, you just provide the URL to it and all that. It will download for you, okay? So we'll look at that in a bit. Now, we noticed that it gave us this column that we don't want. So in order to make sure that you don't repeat this, what you do is you have to pass it a command telling it what line is the index, okay? So now what we do is, in order to load this, right, this time around, what we are going to do is, let's call it data 1, okay? So now to this, what we are going to do is, now we are going to add a command. Say index, okay, is equal to 0. So we are just telling you that the index of this file, okay, is the first column, because we know that in Python, indexing starts from 0. Okay, so that's why it's put on name 0 here. So when we do this, okay, what happens now is, index column, sorry, index call. Yeah, that is right. Yeah. So this now gives us 0. Okay, so what happens is, if now I run this is the difference. You see, now it doesn't give me this anymore, right? Just as it did here, because now I am telling it that don't create your own index for this data, because this one I didn't specify the index, so it created its own index for me. Okay, so what I want is this. An example would be, let's say we created this. Let me see, updated this. Let me do it this way. So I save it, right? Let me run this. Good. Now I have this, okay? So let's save this one and then run it again and see, so you can see the difference. The reason I'm doing all this is so that you can see the dynamics involved. So we want to save this. Okay, so how do we do that? We come here and pick this. No, let's just save it directly so we don't have to do anything. So we just do to CSV here, and then let's name it exam score updated, right? .csv. We run this. So after running this, now we load it. Right? Let's call it data 2. And we say pd.read CSV, right? We load this. See what is going to happen if we don't give it an index column, okay? You run this. And it gave us this, but we don't want this. Now you see, it's the same thing that it did here. We have our own column. It just chose another one for us, which we don't want. Okay, so in saving, you can either save without the column or save with the column. And in loading, you can either load without the column or load with the column. So in this case, sorry, index column. So in this case, you notice that this is not the right index column, right? So what we do is, if we try the same thing, okay, and then we name it data 3, all right, and we tell it that the index column should be the first column, right? See what happens. Now you see the difference. Let me reduce the size a bit, sorry, so you can see. Now you see the difference between the two. This one loads without the index column. So now you see the way you want it. But this one, because we didn't tell it what column the the index column is, it loads it plus and gives us this index column. I hope this is clear. Like to this point, it's clear. Are there any questions? Yeah, Samuel, your hand is up.
And so my question is around about saving the file. This one is CSV. So in case we saved it in a direct Excel format, the code will not read like pd.read CSV, but will it rather be Excel?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So these are some of the things that you have to find out for yourself. It's pd.read Excel. That's all. But I want you to play around with it and try these other options that are available to you so you can learn some of these things, once you go. And also you can save to Excel, but then it has some other things that you need to know. So try and play around, like I said, so you can get to understand this more. So basically, this is what we have now. So what if our file is not in the folder that we want, okay? So for example, this file that we have here, we just created, right? Let's make a copy of it, okay? And then where should I put it? Maybe my downloads or I could put it in my documents. It doesn't matter, wherever you want to put it, on my desktop, just put it anywhere. So let me just drop it on my desktop, okay? I think there's a comment. Oh, okay, AJ, sorry. Okay. AJ, let me slow down for you. Okay. So what I'm saying is, let's say your Python script or your Jupyter notebook is in one folder. Okay. This is where our scripts and everything is. Okay. But then there's the data the data file. What we did before was pretty straightforward because all the data files were within the same folder. So it was just straightforward. You could just do it, right? So what if the data file, okay, was in a different file? So let me just pick another folder. I just want to try another folder and just drop it in there so that we can have something. Okay, so let me just drop it here, right? So this is the file. So we are working in, this is just a simple example. We are working here and we want to pick a file from here, right? This is the file. Yeah. So what we do is, if you want to pick this file, you have to copy the file path, okay? So I don't know if we can copy it directly. If there's a file path, we can copy. All right, properties, let me see if we can get the file path so it makes it easier. Details. Yep. So this is the file path, okay? You can copy this file path, or what I usually do is the simple way. I just click the empty space here and it gives me this. So this is the file path. I copy this. Okay. So now let me do this first. So now I want to read that file from a different folder. This is when it is within that folder. Let's go to data 4. Okay. And we say pd.read. Okay. I thought, Jemima, do you have something to say? I can hear you speaking. Do you have a question?
Sorry. No.
No, since you have unmuted yourself, you should have a question. Ask any question before you go, because I've not heard you speak or seen your answer in the chat. So I didn't know we had a Jemima here. So Jemima, I have to say something today. Jemima, do you understand everything? Jemima, I can't hear
Actually,
you.
I don't know. I said I just joined, so I don't know what is going on. But I'm monitoring. It's just that
Okay.
I forgot to mute mine.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Sorry.
So I'm
So
using my
you're welcome. If you have any
All right.
question, right, feel free to ask.
Okay.
Okay, I would go over everything again so that I bring you up to speed. All right.
Okay.
So like I said, now what we want to do is we want to pick the file from a different folder, okay, and go and pick it and go and run it within a different folder. Okay. So what is going to happen is that, like we have here, we have Excel sheets and all that. We will try loading the Excel sheet as well, so you see how it works. So what is happening here is you see this file, okay. We get there, you click anywhere for Windows users, okay. I don't know about Mac and then Linux. So you copy this, then you drop it here, right? Then you go back to where your file name is, because you need to get the file name right. Okay, so what is the name of the file that you are working with? It is this. So you can just copy the file name like this as well. Like I said, I'm very lazy, so I like to copy everything so I don't make any mistakes. Now that I have the file name copied, I come back here and I put another slash. I think the slash should be a /, not a backslash. So we change all this to /. I hope it works. It has to work. It doesn't have a choice. If it doesn't work, I think we have a prayer warrior here. We will let him help us with it. You have to pray into it so we get it work. So, boom, we have it. It works. Okay. So we run this. Voila, we have it here. So this is how you pick it from a different file, a different folder, and run it here. So this is the question I think Eugene was asking, right? So this is what you do. You get the file path, the path to where that file is, okay? Then you go and pick it up, okay? There's another short way of doing it. You just have to step outside the folder, but that one you need to understand the file path well to be able to do it. So this is like the very simple way to do it. You go get the file path from your drive C, you put it here, and you have the information that you want. And don't forget, usually the file path in Windows are /, but if you are running in Python, you should use /. So you have to change all of these to /. Okay. So this is it. And we notice that we have our index, which we don't want. So what do? We go back and we define our index column like that. We run, we come back, we run, and we are good to go. Are there any questions to this point? Any questions at all? If there are no questions, I would want to see no. So at least I know you don't have questions. AJ, do you have any questions? Good. Yes, so it looks like everything is clear to this point. After Samuel, AJ, do you have any questions? So Samuel, let me hear you. Your hand is up.
Yeah, so my question, I'm sure probably it will be future. This is a very small data set where we have few columns and rows. But when your data set is large, how do you manipulate all these things?
So right now, everything we are doing now at this point, regardless of the size of your data set, you do the same thing. Whether a data set is huge or small, your index column is always your index column. It doesn't matter whether you have 1,000 rows by no, it's the same thing, okay? And if you are saving your data sets, right? If you have 200,000 rows by 100,000 columns, it's the same way you do it. It doesn't change, okay? So basically what I did before was for us to see how to create our own data sets and also save it and all that. But if you want to read a data set, it's the same command, okay? So like I said, there's an example from the folder that we worked in. I think one of the works that I did, right? Excuse me. All right. So this is a simple example that I want to show us. So we want this file. So let's just copy. This is an Excel sheet. So I want to see if it's going to work, right? So what can we do? I could go directly to it, or we can say, right? Yeah, when you come here, you notice that it says you have to install this. So this is a package that helps you open Excel sheets, right? Then read Excel, as simple as that. Very simple, okay? I already have this installed, so I don't need to install this again, right? Then you just read Excel, very simple. So when there are several sheets, right, you choose the sheet you want to load, or if you want to load all the notebook, all the Excel sheets, do it this way. Straightforward, right? Good. So now let's come back here. So let's use the same one here. Let me call it try trial data or something like that. So now what I want to do is, what is the file name? Let me copy it. This one is want you to see how it works. That's all. So I bring that here. And then I run. If everything goes well, I shouldn't have a problem. So let me remove this and see if that is where the problem is coming from.
Actually, we have CSV and then Excel.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for the observation. Yes. So it has to be Excel. Yes, I think that is the reason. Yeah. Good one. Good. Thank you very much for that. Yep. Good call. Good call. I like that. Yep. So I ran this, and now you see the data that I have here. So much data. We have 1,972 lines, sorry, rows, and then 31 columns. Okay. So this is the data that you have here. You see all of them. Right? So that is how you load the data. Whether it's an Excel sheet or it's a CSV file, you just use the right command, so the right method to just get your data loaded. Okay. Is it clear to this point? Is it clear to this point? Good. All right. So now we understand to this point. Okay. So now we are going to look at how we play around with data. Okay. So let me look for a different data that we can play with. Give me a moment. Some of these data, I can't use them. So let me go back and see. Yeah, perhaps maybe I should pick one from one of my works. All right. So where is my data? Like this one gives me. So I just copy this. I'm going to put it here. And then get to the file path as well. All right. Let's put it this way. All right. So trial data to pd dot read with an Excel sheet. Okay. Read Excel. Okay. I have to change all of these back to /. Okay. Let me run this. Let me see if we can use this. Yep. We can use some of these. This is my data, so we can use it. All right. Okay. So let's use this data. Now we notice that we have this extra column which we don't want. So we just have to make sure that when we are loading our data, we just include index column should be the first column. And we are good to go. So yes, this is an example of the data that we'll be working with. So in your case, you can choose the data you want to work with. So now what we want to do is, now we want to play around with the data, okay? This is where it gets exciting. This is where I actually enjoy, coding, because, you tend to bring things to life. First, we want to find out, because there are 15 columns and we don't know them, what do? We want to find out what columns we have, right? So you call this data and you type columns. Very simple, straightforward, right? You run this, it gives you all the columns, okay? And it is telling you that you are working with an object, okay? I've already explained what an object is, so I'm sure we all understand. You see, the data type is what? An object. Good, so we have all this, so now you know. If you want to save this, you can just save it as. You can just save columns. Let's call it data columns, data 4 columns, right? It's data 4, right? Oh, trial 2. Okay, sorry, trial 2 columns. I like using the right name so I can always remember. Trial 2 columns. So it saves in there. Before we were not saving it, but now we have saved it we have assigned it to this variable, right? So this variable hosts the columns that we are going to be working with here. Okay, so now we have these columns. Similarly, if we want to pick any of these ones, okay, what we do is, just like we did with array slicing, okay, you can slice it, right? Or you can use the method option. So that's why you notice there's the indexing and there's the label. You can either use the index for, for choosing what you want, or you can use the label. But we are not going to use the iLook and then look first. We are going to use the simpler ones just to get them directly. So if I want only this column, okay, there are two options that are available to me, right? The first one here, okay, I could go the way we have always been doing. I just copy this and I put it here. And when I run this, oh, it's not column, sorry. It should be this. So I'm just calling this within this. That's why it's giving me the error. So I need to call it on the data itself, not on our variable. This is a variable that's storing only this. That's why I got the error. So this is our data, right? This variable hosts our data. So I'm using this one instead. So I'm just saying that go into our data and pick this column for me. So you see it picks this column for me directly, right? Similarly, this is the same as doing this. I could do this. So this is the label way of getting the information, okay? And we can do this. If I run this, it gives me the same thing. So you see the difference. I can use the method form or the, the label, this way of going about it. But the issue now is, what if you have a name? So in my case, okay, major access, it has space within it. See what is happening. See what is going to happen when I do this. Okay, let me try it for. Okay, let me just copy this one first. If there are any questions, right? If I'm going too fast, slow me down, okay? I'll take my time. I'm not in a rush. I'm not going anywhere, okay? I'm here for the class. So if it's too fast, draw my attention and I slow down. You see what happens when I use this in this case, right? I get my results beautifully. Now, what if I want to try the same approach? Slow down. Okay. What if I want to try the same approach, okay, with the previous one? See what is going to happen. I'm going to get a huge error. Why? Because my information has space in it. Okay, my column data has space in it. So I will not be able to use this. That is why, if you notice in Python, we try as much as we can to avoid using space within our naming. Because when you do that often, what happens is that you're always going to face these kinds of challenges. Because Python reads space as, what do you call it, a letter as well. So if there's space, it just breaks off. So you notice that in most Python naming, we always use the underscore for the snake case. Okay, so most often than not, we don't leave these places empty. Would have been centroid underscore x in that order. Okay, so that is basically what we are saying here. So let me go over it again. Okay, let's start from the top. I think we all understand from this point. So do we understand how to load the data from this point? Are there yeses in there? Do we understand how to load data? Yes. Good. Good. So we now know how to load the data. Okay. You know how to load the data. So you know how we got this. So this is the data. Okay. Now, for example, we have 15 columns. But if I scroll here, you don't see all of them. Some of them, in case you have, like in the case where you have 31, there are cases you can have 100 columns. Some of them might get truncated at this point. So you won't be able to see all of them. So what you do is you want to see the columns that you have so that when you are playing around with the data set, you can easily play around with it, okay? So these are the columns. You want to see all of them. And you want to have that information on standby. So anytime you want information about columns, just jump in there and you get the columns. So let me use a simple example of what we did earlier. So this, okay, let me copy this data set. Okay, now with that data set that I just picked, okay, this one. we want to see the columns that we have. In case you don't know what information is in there, what do? You type columns. So this is a method, like the way we have mean, which is a function, okay? You have mean, mean, we have median, you know, sum, all these things, so many of them. The same way we have this, okay? So this is a method, okay, that you can use. And when I do this, it gives me the column names, okay, John, Mary, and Jake. And it tells me it's an object because you are working within a Pandas, you know, data frame. So what you can do is, if this is an object and you don't want it to be an object, you just type to list. Okay, let me see if it's going to work. It's a function, sorry. You see now it converts it to a list for me because I don't want to work with objects. Okay, I want to work with a list. I can just convert it to a list. Okay, but if I don't do that, then what it gives me is what? An object. And the reason why we always leave it an object is because if it is an object, like you know, it has certain attributes that you can always use. That is why we don't convert to lists. So this is basically like a kind of list in Pandas, but then it's an object because it has certain attributes to it. Is that clear now? Like for the columns, is it clear? Yeah, good. Yeah. AJ, is it clear? Usually say I go too fast, so I want to hear from you. AJ, how is it? Are you with me? Okay. So basically, this is what you do to get the columns, all right? And like I said, this is what we did here. So you can use the columns to get the information you need from the data. Okay. So what I want is, I want to get all the information under column J, column John, right? So what I can do is, now with this same data, okay, I have two options available to me. I can either do this and call John directly as a method, right? And run it. Then it gives me John. You see, it gives me this information. So it is telling me that. So now you see what this is. This is a series. And the name of that series is what? John. Because we've already done the series, you remember. Okay. And this is showing us the courses. Okay. So it's saying that for John, physics, he had this, chemistry, he had this, English, he had this, history, he had this. All right. Let's try the same thing for Mary. Right? And it's going to show us something similar. You see, because this is the index, we made it the index in our code. So now we will see the index here. This is why I did it this way, so you can actually appreciate it. So here we know that for Mary, physics, she had 92, chemistry 82, in that order. You can do the same for all of them. The reason why I did the column that way is so that you can make things very clear. Going forward, you don't have to have problems with it. So if we had made the columns, sorry, the column titles this, then it's going to be giving us the names instead, which probably that's not what we want to see. So we pick Mary, you see every information about Mary. You pick Jake, same way. This is the beauty of working within Pandas data frame. It's similar to a dictionary, but then it has more room for maneuver. It has so many things that you can play around with. Okay. All right. And I'm saying that this we have here, we can use the same approach, okay, that we did for our, array slicing and all that. And all we have to do is just put this here, put that here, give it that, and give it that. And we run it. Same results. You see, this is the same results we have. So this and this one is doing the same work. But like I mentioned, right, in Python, there's no one way of doing things. There are several ways of doing things. The limits to programming is probably your imagination. You understand? So you have to be very imaginative, know how to play around with the building blocks. It's like Lego. If you want to build, a house, the bricks, the Lego pieces are available to you. How you arrange them to derive at the results you want, it's entirely up to you. You understand? So the way you play around with programming is what ensures that you're able to do. So the difficulty in programming does not really lie in the syntax and all that. It lies in how you manipulate the laws to form the logic. So you notice that when people talk about programming, you talk about logic. Yes, logic is how you play around with the rules and the laws and the information available to you to achieve what you want to achieve. So these are just a simple example that I wanted you to see to understand what I am doing here. Okay, so the example that I did here was, so for now, if I have the difference between working with this, using the method kind, and then using this is that if I have a space within the name of the column, okay, what happens is that I cannot use this approach for it. I can only use this approach. That is why, one, it is always advisable in programming not to use spaces in your naming. So an example is this, the way we name this file. So you notice that most of my files, I always have hyphen or underscore or something within them. But you see here, we have spaces. So in Python, this is not a healthy way of naming, the files. You always have to put an underscore or something or hyphen or something. Don't leave space. The safest that I've known so far is underscore. So I would instead of space, you just put an underscore there. It makes it look better. All right. So like I mentioned, that way it becomes difficult to do this. Okay. So now that we have this, now let's play around. Another approach. I hope it is clear till this point. Are there any questions till this point? Any questions? Okay. Are there any questions? Someone says no. Are there any questions? Any questions? Okay, good. AJ, are you with me? I don't want to leave you behind. That's why I keep calling you. Do you have any questions? You can ask them so that I move on to the next. If I don't hear from you, then I'm sure that maybe you're okay. Maybe AJ is shy, so he or she doesn't want to. I don't know if it's a he or she, but yeah. So it's fine if you don't want to. I just wanted to make sure you're okay, right? Now, let's go to the next thing we want to do. For every data that you work with, you first of all want to know how the data looks like, okay? So what you can do there is, there's another method called describe. What describe does is that it gives you an overview of how the data looks like, okay? So let's pick this, the very small data set, okay? And we describe it. We ask it to describe this data for us, right? So it's giving us the description of the data. No, it has to be, sorry, it's a function. Sometimes these things always mix up for me, so forgive me if I do this. Yeah. So this is what happens. So you see what it's giving us here. It is telling us the count is the number of entries that John has, Mary has, and then Jake. It's telling us they all have four entries. So in some cases where some of the data is missing, they might not have the same entries, okay? Then it is telling us that the mean value of John's score is 45. Mary's is 89, okay? And then Jake is 69.25, right? Now you see the standard deviation. This is how much, they fluctuate from left to right, or going up or below, okay? Now you see the minimum values that they have, the minimum score, their median, the and their maximum as well. So this gives you an example of the entire data set, okay? So if I want to describe only John's information, what should be the command? Based on the understanding of this, okay, and this, or you can choose this one or that one, whichever one. Based on that understanding, what would be, if I want only the description for John, what would be the command? You can put it in the chat. I'll give you all like 2 minutes to help me. If I want only the descriptive information on John's course, what would be the command in Python using Pandas based on our understanding? Okay, let's see. Okay, let's try this. Based on the understanding, let's see, we have Kevin. Let's see what happens. John is not defined as a function. All right, let's see Morel. Yes, you actually put John in there. That's a good one. Let's see what happens. Yep. So we can see why the error. So Emmanuel, your response is the same as Morel, so it probably would not work. Popolampo, the same thing. O'Neill, the same thing. So this is where it gets interesting. Now, what is happening is you can actually stack the methods. You can stack so many methods as long as they agree, right? If I want that of John, what I do is I have to first of all give John to this, okay? So now I'm saying that go into data sets, pick column John and describe just column John for me. You understand? So this is what it's going to give you. Or you can choose the bracket form, what we did before. Okay. But those are very good attempts. I like that. I can see that you guys are playing around with it, and it's brilliant. Same way. So you see, both ways also gives you this. So you can stack them upon them if they actually turn out with. So if the data types are ones that you can work with. So you notice that now this data type is float. It's no longer an object. So if you want to perform a certain operation on this, you might have a challenge because the data type is no longer an object. Okay, so pay attention. You notice that for this, okay, let me see if I can see the D type. Let me see something. So you see the data types is giving me. It's giving me that John's float, Mary float, but the entire data type is what? An object. But because it's a float, floating points do not have certain, methods because of their virtue that they are floating points. So if it's an object, you can do certain things. If it's a float, you may not be able to do it. So just keep this in mind. And this is just by the way. All right. So now that we have this, right, we want to find the mean. Okay. You notice that if we bring dot mean here, we probably will have an error. Probably. Oh, it worked. Good. So you can see that it's able to give us the mean as well. So you see, you're able to stack several of them on the go. So depending on the data type, sometimes it might work, sometimes it might not. So yeah, this just shows that you're able to add another, you can find the mean, okay? So this is how it works. So you can do so many things with this, all right? Now, the next thing is, if your data is too huge, okay, and you just want to have a glimpse of the first few data sets, right? What you do is, if it is the first one that we are working with, this one, it's quite huge. Yep. This one, right? You can just type .head, okay? Then here you can leave it. If you leave it, it gives you the first 5 lines of your data set, okay? You can choose the number you want. So here, if I put 10 in here, then give me the first 10 rows, okay? Because Python starts from 0, it will end at 9. You get it? So it's the same way. So the head basically helps you have a look, like have a glimpse of the data that you're working with. So we looked at how we can describe the data, okay, here. And we looked at how we can choose a column to describe it. And now we are looking at just picking a section of it. So yeah, Popolampo, your hand is up.
Yeah, I wanted to ask the trial data, the one that we just pulled the head right now. The indices, the 0, 1, 2, 3, is it can't it be removed?
Come again.
I'm asking the indices attached to the data we just pulled. Can't it be removed, or it always has to come with the data?
No, for this data, this is the indices that I want it to be. So these are a number of things that I want. So this data helps me tell this is number 1, this is number 2, number 3. But in some cases, you can choose to change it. Okay, for example, if I want this to be the column, it would be the column. It will be the index. I just have to change it like we did, set index, then I give it that value, and that's it. It sets it for me. But in this case, this is what we want. That's why we put it here.
Okay.
You understand? Yeah. Because this one has meaning. You can, you're working with 900, rows, and these 900 rows, they don't have names. They are just entries, right? So first entry, second entry, third entry. So you don't need to change this one. This one pretty much does the work. So you don't need to change it. That is why, right? So basically, this is how you do it. You get the head and all that. So from subsequently, we are going to work on Wednesday. We are going to look at how we can, merge, pull apart, all these things that we are going to play around with, and also look at other methods that we can do, and then some interesting things. Sometimes you want to pull, you want to sort them out, you want to group them into some other stuff and all that. We'll look at how you can delete some lines, add some lines, and stuff like that. So basically, that is what you'll be doing more often if you are working, like you will do in Excel. Basically, that's what we are doing here now, which is very straightforward. And we look at how we can, apply functions to it and all these things. So we'll look at it. So on this note, are there any questions before we end the class for today? Any questions? Is everything clear? So I want to see in the chat yes or no and stuff like that. Good. So we are all on the same page. All right. So then in that case, I would want to bring the class to a close for today. Yeah, Abigail, your hand is up.
Yes, please. Can we get these notes, because watching it online is very blurry, so I cannot watch the codes well. So if this can be given to me whilst watching online, that will help. Thank you.
All right, sure. Abigail will do that. We usually share the codes on the WeChat group and WhatsApp groups as well. But if you need the codes, just type in the the chat, and then we'll share with you. I hope you're in one of the groups.
Yes, the WeChat
Good.
group.
Good. So if you are in there, if you want anything, that's why I keep saying don't feel shy. Just put it in there, and I'll do my best to make sure you have them. Okay. And the attendance, I don't know. Renee, are you here? Gertrude.
Oh, Dr. Johnson.
Yeah, the attendance. They're requesting for it.
Oh, okay. I think Mr. Bonso is in charge of the attendance. Let me quickly check if he's here.
Okay, sure.
Dr. Bonso, please, are you here? I've not paid attention to that. Otherwise, I think we can take a screenshot for today. I'm not sure if
Okay, then
Mr.
you
Bonso.
can go ahead and help me with that. Take the screenshot, and then you can use that for the
Yes, let
attendance.
me quickly do this.
However, there's a name called iPhone. I don't know who that is. So
I noticed iPhone has been joining often, but it's quite unfortunate. The individual forgets to
rename. Yeah.
rename. Yeah. I
I
think it
understand.
will help if the person sets the name.
Okay. All right. So on this note, I think I'll bring the class to a close. And if there are any questions, don't hesitate to drop them in the chat on WeChat or WhatsApp, and I'll be happy to attend to them. So see you all on Wednesday, and give Irene like a minute or two to take the screenshots before you log out, so you can have your attendance recorded. Okay, so I'll see you all on Wednesday. Okay, bye-bye. Oh, let me just, so now you have to shut down the notebooks. I think, maybe, have I taught you how to do this? Once you have the notebooks open, first of all, you need to shut them down before you stop working. It's a good practice. Once you shut them down, you can now close this, and you can go back to files, go to file here, scroll down, and then shut this one down as well. You're good to go. Once you shut them down, you can close it. Then when we go back here, we should see that it has been shut down successfully. All right. So see you all on Wednesday. Okay, bye-bye.